So this is Baruch Fleischman, and we're learning here the Zohar for the third day of the week of this week of Parshas Mishpatim. This is the Zohar for Tiferet. Today is a day of beauty. So let's go over here and let's see what the Zohar has been talking about. And the Zohar introduced an idea that we have to get used to. And we are really learning it in the Ari. And the Ari is telling us that the weekday yichud that takes place between Zohar and Nuk, that in the Shemona Esrei, is not the same yichud that takes place on Shabbos. So here we had the concept, in the last year that we did, we had the concept of 6, which refers to Olam Yetzirah, because Olam Yetzirah is associated with Zir Anpin. Zir Anpin has only 6 spheros that are innate to him. Some spheros, the rest of his spheros can be added on to him, but he is basically what we call Vok. Vok, in that Vok stands for the word Vav Kitzvah. So that's what happens during the weekday. The yichud that takes place in the weekday is the yichud of the number 6, because there's 6 days in the week. So let's come over here and see if I've got this right. See what else there is for us to be able to learn. So we're over here in the Zohar. It said, so if which we had been learning yesterday, referred to the weekday yichud. But there's a possibility that instead of the neshama, the person, being born out of the lower worlds, which are Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, in particular we're focusing previously on the Olam Yetzirah. But if in fact that the neshama comes from a higher place, a more panimis dika place, which is called the Sitra Deshchinta, the Ihi Shviz, which is the 7th spheros. So understand Zer Anpin is 6 spheros, and he's attached to the 7th one, which is known as Malchus, and over here he calls it the Shchinta. But if in fact it is quarried, the word nechsava means, I guess, quarried. I think it's the best word, carved out from the side of the Shechina. She is Sphira Shvias Mechazat Atzilus, that she is the 7th spheros, the 7 spheros of Yetzilus, which are what? Chagat Nehim, that is Chesed Gevurah Tiferet, Netzach Hod Yesod Malchus. That's the 7. Sheneshama Kazu, here we are. Imshachas Ayedeh Zivug Shenasa Beleil Shei of Shabbos. This zivug can only take place on Shabbos, on the night of Shabbos, after midnight. This is in other places he says this. That if you want a child that's really going to be special, that's what you need to do. Vadai machsiv, and in regards to this, what is it written? Vashviz, pirish adam kazesh nishmashu machashchina, this person who has a neshama that's coming from the shchina, shehi hashviz, which is the 7th in the count, right? Malchus is the 7th. Af ki harbe lip shoa, even this person meant a lot of sins. And so here's what he's saying like this. Let's get his word. He says that this person really should be punished. And what should the punishment should be? Gilgul, he should be recycled into this world again, Shiva Malacha, and he has to become indentured into all to the world. This is a world where it's full of thorns and thistles. I mean, what are you going to do? It's trouble here. But this particular neshama, which comes from such a high place, it goes out free. Pirish. Lo yishta'ava begulgula. This neshama will not have to come back in a gilgul. But Talmud Dover, why not? The tzaddik vadai lis be malocha, because the rule is the tzaddik vadai. Now, how does he say this? He said previously that this person did a lot of sins, but he won't be mizgalgal. So now he says the tzaddik vadai lis be malocha ki yisod. Now he says because why? He asks a different kind of answer. He says the yisod of the person, a nikra tzaddik, which is another word for yisod, is tzaddik katama yifrach. So it pours out, just pours out. Vadai ein b'chol malechas habiro shalom neshamas. It did not come into existence as a result of the normal process, which we call birur. Let's just look at it in this way. What he means to say is like this. In Olam of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, there is a process of refining out light from the darker klipos that hold it. the trapped light, the light of Kedusha. But the light of Kedusha is in the Olam Abriya, which is full of shmutz. So therefore, what's happening over here is that the yichud that takes place on that level can never really reach the level of Atzilus, because Atzilus is not made by Birurim. Atzilus is made by the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. This is a completely different surah to it. As this was let's go back again. Yisod and Nikra Tzadik. Vaday ein b'chol melechas habira shechol neshamas. It doesn't have to go through this refining process. Why not? Yehu mamshech neshamas chadashos, because from this place in Atzilus, it is pouring out new neshamas. Mimakar neshama v'locha b'makam habira. It's coming from the place where they are now, where the quarry of neshamas is located, not from the process of refinement that comes from the lower worlds, which are pulling Kedusha out of the broken vessels and so on and so forth that are lost in this world. So he said, Kamen liz bei malacha liz bei shivu. Kamen shuhu ba'olam atzilus. So since the neshama itself is not really in a position, it comes from such a high place, that the klipos and the chitzonius and the tzonium and all of the bad things that come after a person really bounce off of this person. That's my words. Because he doesn't have to go through the process of sifting. So I guess he's saying in a way that the concept of the refinement, the sifting in the lower worlds is a tircha. It's a difficult process. He doesn't have to go through that because he comes from the place where the quarry is. So therefore it's not indentured to the klipos. Because they can't really get a hold of him at all. So therefore the neshama that comes from that place, it said in regards to that neshama, the neshama shehi misham, the shenechsava that was quarried out or mined out, mahashchina, from the shchina herself. Who receives new neshamas from the Yisod of Olam Atzilus, which is coming all the way from the Erik Anpin all the way into there. He says, Ne'emar Bo, it says in regards to this, Ubishvis Yetze L'Chavshe, on that seventh, if you get to that seventh level, now counting from the bottom of Malchus and going upwards, whatever the level is a very high level. Ubishvis Yetze L'Chavshe Chinam, doesn't know anything. Lisba Shivuda, and it was never become enslaved. Ba Shivud Malachal Klau Ella Tistakein B'Masha Oisik B'Torah B'Mitzvahs. In other words, he says there's another way for this neshama to come back. That way is by learning. The person who is created as a result, that is the neshama. That's the right word. The neshama that is created as a result of the yichud that takes place from birur in the lower worlds, that neshama will have to be misgaggle if it messes up, because it's only the concept of 6. It's the 6th year, the 6 years of indention, of being indentured, which is the concept of this lower level of yichud. But on the other hand, a person has a yichud that comes from the quarry of Atzilus, where there is no birur involved, and the other side really has very little power over it. That neshama will not have to go through the birur process or go back through a gilgul. Let's go on here a little bit, and let me just hold for a second. Be right back with you. Okay, I had to interrupt a little bit, and I'm back. So it says like this. He says, so the Inyan Hu, so the secret of this whole subject. Because when the yichud takes place during the weekday, mashpia nefesh ma'ofen. Now, let's go over the world. It causes to pour out the concept of nefesh from the wheel. Now, we said this before, and this is one of the main things I try to do, is we're going through the parsha, don't we realize that we're on a circle? And that the wheel, this world, is the world of wheels. That basically the circle brings us over to, I don't know what day today is. Let me just, give me a second here. Hey, come back here, man. Okay, today is the 21st day of Shvat, or the 23rd day of January. But it means each day changes. Not only do the days change, they're constantly cycling. But the whole year comes back around again, once again, and we start all over again. The winter cycle, the summer cycle, in between, so on and so forth. These are the concept of the oifen, of the wheel that continues to turn as the days of our lives. Same thing. So he says, let me read it again. So the Indian who zivug shena'atz b'me'achol, what zivug that takes place during the weekday, mashpia nefesh ma'oifen, it pours out a soul that comes out from the concept of wheels, of cycles, pirish me'asiya. So he means the world of cycles is our world. He says, v'ruach b'sitra de'eved, and also, but at the same time, inside of that is a ruach. As we said before, ruach is inside of nefesh. Is a ruach that comes, which comes from the side of the slave. Who's the slave? The slave is this metat that we talked about before. He used the word. He said it's the slave of Olam Atzilus, of the Malchus of Atzilus. So this appears the Yetzira. So the person is created from Olam Atzilus. So that is the neshama, rather. The neshama, the bria. So he says, excuse me, the ruach is created in Olam Yetzira. The nefesh is created, I'll go backwards, pirish, the nefesh is created ba'ofen, which is Olam Yetzira, Asiya. The ruach is mesitra, the eved is come from the side of the slave, which is metat, which is Olam Yetzira. The neshama mebria. So those are the three places the neshama can come from if it's not in Atzilus. So since it comes down through the weekdays, which are days of work, we have to work. So therefore, when a person is recycled, that excuse me, again, I use the word person. When I say the word person, it really means the neshama. When the neshama is recycled, the olam hazeh, into this world again, another time, and the person becomes indentured to all the good stuff that you have in this world. You got to make a living. Because this now is helping the person as he's trying to make his way through these physical devarim gashmiyim, and winds up doing all of the different malachas that you have to do the 6 days of the week. And not only that, but he's indentured to pain, and sickness, v'dalas, v'tilta, v'terif, all of these different words that he's saying that are really pounding on this person, the choloyim, sickness, and dalas, and poverty, v'tilta, and being banished, v'terif, and beaten. So it becomes very painful, and the person is flawed. There are very ugly things in this world that shape a person because he keeps getting hit by them. So therefore, now we're talking about this neshama, and we're talking about us. There are neshamas which were created from lower worlds and have to be created by refinement. And here we're talking about what does refinement mean? Punishment. So therefore it's possible that the neshama will be reincarnated, recycled again, many times, until it becomes, rebuilt. So now let's switch it over. There is a yichud, which we said before, which is the most pure yichud, which takes place after midnight on Shabbos. This is mashpia nefesh d'Atzilus bas melech malchus. So this is the nefesh that comes from the quarry, as I said before, from the Atzilus itself. And this is about bas melech malchus. She is the daughter of the king and the kingdom. So if you are a person, your body is within it this neshama of that comes from quarried from Olam Atzilus. Afilu im is gagol ein bo shivud avon v'lo malacha, even if it's reincarnated. I'm not sure what that meant, but he said even if it's reincarnated, ein bo shivud avon v'lo malacha. The person is never indentured, never enslaved in this world like those who are born from the lower levels. But this is what he wants to say. This person, even if he made mistakes, but he could correct those mistakes by learning Torah and by doing mitzvahs. And this person is not standing in there in a slave's case, or that he's running after really terrible things. Ella muvta hu, but the promise is made like this: shelo yechte, that this person really is not going to sin. Levish ain't chet bal al yado, because no chet can come from him. And this is the concept like this: is that Atzilus is really immune from the klipos. It's really immune from the other side of the chitzonius. And the person is going to come and sin. He says, "Testalak neshama, but tivrach mimenu shelo tislachlach ba'avoin." The level of this person's neshama from Olam Atzilus cannot be in the same place where avonos are found, where sins are found. And his language of the Matok says, "Lachto." He said, let me read it back. Ve'im yavo lachto. The person got to come and sin now. What happened is mistalek and neshama. The neshama going to leave that person. But tivrach v'menu, going to run away from him. Shelo tislach lach ba'avon, that he should not become corrupted and made filthy with sin. So that soul is so pure. For all of Ne'emer on this, it is said, Yatsa the chafshe nechinam, that you go out free for nothing. Pirush she'ena misgagol el pamachas, and the explanation is this: that this soul that came from such a high place, and he uses the word Gilgul again. He says the Gilgul can never come back again and be reincarnated again only one time. V'gam az hu b'li shivad v'torach, and even though that it had to come back, it's still not indentured. It's still not sweating here in this world from all of its pain. But let's say that now it's kind of messed up a little bit. This neshama is messed up, and he doesn't really get the job done. And this one time that he comes back, lo yisgagul shenis, he's not going to come back again. Al yakabel on shubgehenem, but that neshama will have to receive its punishment in Gehenna. This is Baruch Fleischman. Today is the shir for the third day of the week of Parshas Mishpatim. This is the Tikkun Elevator Kola.